What's up, everybody? I am excited today. You guys know I love this National Treasures series that we have going on here in 2023. We end the National, but that doesn't end the fun. We sort of do a recap show, and I got to tell you, I'm excited about a lot of the guests, but this one is a fun one for me because it's somebody who's been in the hobby for decades. It's somebody who's been to National a lot. And I'll let him get into just how many times. I mean, I'm the old man here, but he's got the experience. So, I mean, really one that I'm looking forward to because this National Treasure series, what I want to talk to people about is their experience at the National, what they took from it, and where I can, how is this National different than the Nationals in past? So, without further ado, I have Brian Dwyer from Robert Edward Auctions with me. Welcome, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here, Cage. Thanks.
I'm excited. So I just let it off. I'll put it out there on a tee because people are now on the edge of their seat saying, how many Nationals could this guy have gone to? He looks like he's like 23 years old. Did he start going when he was, a baby? How many Nationals have you been to? What number National was this?
This was my 18th National.
Ooh.
So I did start going when I was a baby. My grandparents had to drive me to my first show in AC, and they played the slots while I walked the floor. And then eventually I got to go on my own. But yeah, 18 shows for me.
Well, I mean, obviously it's changed a little bit since that first one where now you're able to gamble.
Yeah.
And there's some gambling going on the show floor, it seems, as well. So obviously, I'm not going to throw the softball out there, but I mean, overall, National this time around, give me your impressions. Just, first thing that comes to mind, if you were able to, free word association, throw a couple words out there that are 2023 National in Chicago was sweaty.
For us, it was awesome. It was loud. It was exciting. It was encouraging. It was fun. Kind of all those things. I remind people 99.9% of the people in that room took a vacation from their regular life to come there. So you have guys like me and many others who do this for a living, but the majority of the attendees took time off, took vacation, and parked themselves in that convention center. And so that tells you they're super passionate about it. That tells you that they have fun doing it. And I think the vibe of the show was really fun, energetic, loud. Obviously, you had Breakers Pavilion really loud, but overall, I think it was encouraging to see the hobby is as excited as ever, is as loud, is as passionate as ever. And for us, that was the takeaway. I mean, the hobby's in a great place.
Yep. I mean, listen, you didn't have to do that, right? I mean, I remember, the folks who have been in the hobby for a long time, they're usually the ones who are resistant to change. I remember when grading wasn't a thing, and people were sitting there. I don't need somebody to tell me what my card grade is. I know what an excellent mint is, and I mean, is there any hesitancy in this? I mean, do you just love welcome all, or do you sit back every once in a while in your booth and look over at the carnival that's going on, the breaking that's going on, the spinny wheels that's going on, the people yelling and screaming, almost like it's at a roulette table in a casino? Any pause from that, or it's just, hey, the more the merrier. We love having people there, and we broke the Anaheim record for the amount of people attending. I mean, how do you beat that, right?
Yeah, I mean, Anaheim was always kind of that mythical convention that everybody that wasn't there heard of, like, oh, Anaheim 91, the fire marshal, they shut down the show. For me, the way I look at it, and I have the benefit, my first National, I was 17 years old. And if I look back on where I am today, I'm 37. I'm not doing or collecting or enjoying today what I did 20 years ago, but it got me into the hobby. It kept me in the hobby, and I changed with the hobby. And so I take kind of a very large, wide view of it where I almost don't care how people come in. If they're having fun, they're going to stay. And the more people that stay, the better the hobby is going to be. And maybe that means they're breakers for the first couple of years of their hobby life. And then maybe that means they dabble in vintage. And then maybe like me, I've made a full transition to vintage. So I just like that people want to be here, and I like that people are having fun, and there's room for everybody.
Love it. I mean, and it gets you thinking, right? I mean, when I started collecting, it was 80s cards. It was, early 90s cards. And, while I still collect that, I've shifted to vintage baseball. I do some modern, I do some non-sport. And, even folks who are there now looking to break, gamble, break and buy ultra modern. Yeah. If they're having fun and they're here next year, the year after, things change, right? They widen their collection. They collect something different. I like that view. And even something I didn't think about, right? mean, some of the folks who are breaking cards now, they have to become very familiar with the product.
Mhm.
Right. So today's breaker of 2022, 2023 Chrome products, if they're in the hobby 20 years from now, will be the expert in production numbers and which ones were rare and why you want a taco fractor as opposed to a frozen fractor. It's got to somebody who's got to be an expert. Maybe the breakers stay around long enough. They're not breaking anymore. They're the ones that are putting out content and they know the cards from today, backwards and forwards. I like that. Never even actually thought about that. Well done. All right. So your booth.
Yeah.
One question that I have, right, is a lot of people go there, they go to a show, they spend their money for the table, they bring their people to the show, they have their employees or their own table, they spend a couple $1,000s, they have their inventory, and their show is a success based on whether or not they sell enough to cover their expenses and make profit on the cards that they're selling. That's not your booth. You're not set up that way. You're set up with cards that are on display for coming auctions. It's almost sort of like walking through a museum.
Yeah.
Right. So what defines a successful show for you? And did this qualify as one?
Without a doubt. So, we had this kind of debrief in our office yesterday with everybody that was at the show. What'd you like? What didn't you like? What did you hear? What could we do differently, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, for us, it's all about showing stuff off. I mean, we've got an auction live now. We brought more than 600 lots to the National. More than 20% of our auction was on the show floor. And so it's showing stuff off. This is such a heavy relationship business, not only the auction side of this world, but just the hobby in general. I mean, people, they trade with their friends, they sell to their friends. So relationships are everything. And so for us, a successful national is putting faces with names for people that we've been transacting with over the internet for years or decades in some instances. For us, it's exposing people to what we do and kind of standing out in that crowd from some of that yelling and shouting and maybe say, oh, okay, look, I can buy a Pokemon card here, or I can buy a modern hockey card, or I can buy a Babe Ruth. I mean, we had a Babe Ruth game used bat. I can't tell you how many kids came over, eyes wide open, loved that.
BSA 10, right? I mean, that's a graded game used 10 from, what was it, 2022, 24 season, right? 22, 23. I saw that one.
Just like days before the National, we were able to photo match that to a game in 1923.
Wow.
A game in which Ruth hit a home run. So yeah, already awesome. 10 bats at $205,000 bid right now, 2 weeks left.
Chump change. Lose that in the laundry. Let's go. I'm going to bid on it right now as we're talking.
I'm expecting to drop it off at your house on August 14th.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, for us, the National always has a long tail on it. And I remind my guys of that, where yes, we're doing business there in the form of taking consignments. And yes, we're signing up new people to bid, but we're going to not capitalize entirely on some of the conversations that we had at the show for 6, 12, 18, 5 years, there's a very long tail on the National for us. And it's just about meeting people and exposing them to our brand. And in that sense, we had a very successful show.
I mean, somebody said it, I forget who it was to me at the show. And it was one of the things people are like, what'd you take home? This quote was one that I took home, and it said the cards are nice, but the gem mint 10s are the relationships.
Yeah.
Like that's really what the National, and it's gotten even crazier. It's a lot of hangouts. It's a lot of, people seeing people that they don't see during the year. And I guess for you guys, it's, getting somebody in the booth to actually take a look at the cards, take a look at what you guys, bring. I mean, some of the stuff you had was amazing. I mean, ending that auction on August, I think 13th, right? Yep. It's, I mean, I was struck by the World Series program. Like, where do you even source something like that?
Yeah, it's incredible.
First
World Series 1903. Not only do we have the program, which we estimate there's maybe a dozen or 15 of them known to exist, but we have a ticket to game one. So the first World Series game ever played, 1903. Nobody realizes that it's going to be this thing that we're talking about 120 years later. And we have a ticket to that game, only one of 2 known to exist. So to have the ticket and the program, and then being able to put them on display at a show like the National, share the story, share the history with people, and let people see and touch that. I mean, that's what the National is about. I still remember my first show in 2003 was the first time I ever saw a 52 mantle in person. So there was somebody out there that will tell this story 20 years ago of coming to the National and seeing something or meeting somebody or hearing something for the first time. And so that's why we do it.
Yeah. I mean, those are the kind of things there's 2 of, right? They're museum pieces, right? And, that's, you're only going to see it at something like this. So You've been at 18,
Yeah.
18 nationals. So keeping it kind of easy, compare this one to just like the last two, Atlantic City and the last one in Chicago. Also, compare this show to those. Any improvements that you've seen? Any kind of any takeaways from this one? Bigger, more kids, you name it. What was something like a reaction you had that just in the recent years, and then we can kind of expand it out to to even further back.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Wi-Fi was better this year than it
Yeah,
was
that's true.
last
That's
year.
very true.
But the air conditioning was worse. So
Yes.
you have to kind of take the good with the bad. In 2021, which was the first, we'll call it post-COVID national, I remember remarking to everybody how many kids were on the floor, and I was going to be very curious to see if that's stuck.
Yep.
Are these kids just in here because it's a hobby, it's fun, they can make money very easily, or will they stay? And frankly, being in the same venue as we were in 2021, I thought there were a ton of kids, and I think that that's tremendous. I've done shows at the Rosemont Convention Center for decades. I've done Sun Times, I've done nationals, I've done smaller local shows. I didn't even know there was a right side of the room. So
Yeah.
to be able to, on Sunday for the first time, I walked the entire show floor. I mean, incredible how many dealers were there and how much space was taken up and how many corporate locations they had and the autograph pavilion. I mean, everything was bigger. And so that's very exciting. But yeah, I mean, 120,000 people maybe walking through the doors. I mean, that's insane.
So on the kid side, I mean, the first time I've seen a concerted effort for like a kid area. I mean, sports card investor Jeff Wilson,
Yeah.
say what you like about him, but I remember, stumbling upon his section because you stumbled upon everything. I mean, it was just too big. I don't care what kind of map you had. It was, oh wow, there's this person, okay, or there's a person, and just kids sitting, kids trading. It's just like this, kids are at shows, but you really take notice of it when they have them kind of all there with a dedicated area for them to do trades. I would imagine probably a kids trade night is probably coming up, in the very near future from the national, just because, that's the future, right? I mean, I don't want to sound too much like Whitney Houston, but you know what I mean.
Right.
So that I agree, man. You definitely could see a lot of kids. The size of the national, is it good? I mean, I know, the easy answer, though, inside of the Hallmark card, we're all going to be rosy, is yeah, the more the merrier. It's great to have that many people. But, does it get to a point where there's overkill where even though you're there for 4 days, 5 days, you're still not going to be able to see the offerings of every dealer? Does it get to a point where it's too big?
So I think the answer is yes and no. I mean, I think I'm all for size. I'm all for a wider footprint of the hobby. What I think we need and what I hope that will go to is a little bit more order and a little bit more organization. Because, yeah, if you're there for one day, you're not going to see a fraction of what's out there. And even frankly, if you're there for 4 or 5 days, you're not going to see everything. But I think that the national experience would be different if you knew that, hey, this segment is mostly geared towards vintage, or this segment is mostly geared towards modern, or here's exclusively everybody that's a breaker, or here's exclusively everybody that's a corporation of some sort. There's nothing to buy per se. And I think just a more easily consumable national, which seems crazy to say when you're talking about 600,000 square feet of space,
Yep.
but I think some order is kind of what we need right now. Make it bigger, keep everybody involved, but maybe a little bit of order.
I love it. Did you notice the multitude of new companies? I mean,
Yeah.
here we are, and it's 2023. You'd think, all right, we had our boom cycle. We've rode the wave down a little bit, and yet I saw even more companies. What does that say for you? I mean, somebody who's been at 18 nationals, is that something you've seen before? And the companies kind of come and go, but some wind up staying. Like, what's the thought process that goes through your mind on that Sunday when you walk around some of those, the right room, and like, oh, here's a new company. Here's a new company. What goes through your brain? Like, oh, they're not going to be here next year, or you're just too nice to think that.
Well, no, look, I mean, at the end of the day, I understand that success for everybody is success for the hobby. I mean, but I'm a practical person. I run a business. I've seen what it costs me to set up. And there are some companies that I walk by where frankly, I'm like, how did they pay for this booth?
Right.
What are they doing? They're not engaged with even what they're presenting. Like what's their plan here? That being said, I mean, I think innovation is great. I think innovation is exciting. I think that one of the knocks on our hobby for a while has been that we lack the sophistication, we lack the order, we lack the investment sometimes.
Yep.
And so seeing those companies making real concerted efforts to come in and improve things is exciting. But, in the past 20 years that I've been going to the national, we've seen grading companies try and start anew. We've seen various authentication companies come on board, and they fade. And so the question is, are these new companies tackling a part of the hobby that is kind of infiltratable, if you will? I think it's a tough road for new grading companies. I think it's a tough road for some of these newer auction companies. But I think I've seen some ideas out on the show floor that have promise, and I'll be curious to see if they take off long term.
Give me one. Give me. I'll just jump right into it. It's usually at the end, but I asked the same flowers question, right? Because now we're talking about you walked around, you had a chance. I would imagine you're at your booth, you're talking to people, you're meeting bidders, you're doing content, you're holding up the cards, you're shaking hands and kissing babies. But the time you did get to kind of walk around, was there any booth that kind of stuck out in your mind that you'd give up? We say give flowers to, like a compliment. Okay, this person did a good job.
I mean, honestly, we touched on it before. I thought Jeff Wilson's booth was incredible. I thought not only from a presentation standpoint did it look really good, it incorporated a couple other smaller companies that he's either affiliated with or associated with that offer great little services to collectors, but it was hugely engaging. And, I was probably one row over, but maybe, 100, 200 feet away from him. I could hear what was going on. I could hear the excitement. I could feel the excitement. It was palpable. And I think that content generation that he's doing is something, and you yourself, right? You're engaging with people, you're having dialogues. I think that's something that the hobby's lacked for a long period of time. And I think that that's exciting to see how people leverage that and what people they draw in from it, right? There's somebody that's going to be listening to this that says, oh my God, I need to get to the national. This sounds awesome. And so what does all that mean long term? But yeah, I thought Jeff's booth was incredible.
He was busy the whole time. I mean,
Yeah.
at Mint, which is a different show, we can even compare those if you wanted to. But I got to spend some time with him. It's a little closer knit, more industry. He was, I'm sure didn't sleep because it's too many kids. You gotta do your thing. At one point, I walked past the booth. He was recording. I waved. He's like, Cage, but I'm like, you're recording. Like, don't interrupt. Like, keep your flow going. I felt bad. But yeah, I mean, so many innovative booths. The corporate area, you're talking about money coming in. It's a good segue for me. We'll move away. I like the flowers. I have a feeling a lot of people who have been in the hobby and plan to stay in the hobby like you. I mean, you have, 50 years of hobby ahead of you, 18 shows. I can't even imagine how many nationals you're going to check off in the future, but it doesn't surprise me that that's where the flowers went, because some of the kids who are in that booth who've left Chicago happy with a free card or a trade, a safely made trade in that booth, trading with other kids. There are kids who were there in Chicago who will be bidding on 52 mantles and other cards in your auction in 10 years, 15 years. And that is, I mean, so it doesn't surprise me that that's where you go. So you talk about money coming in, investment coming in. The auction space is an interesting space. And this is, I mean, you run Robert Edward Auctions. I know you have a very talented team of folks with you. PJ, my man, he pulled me aside. We did some content. I was able to kind of hold the Jackie Robinson card, and that was cool for me. Because believe it or not, I've never held that nice of a Jackie 48 leaf. So
we do the national.
I become attached to it. I may need to take that home. So, but I mean, great team. You're running an auction house. The auction space, we've seen a lot of, grading companies come in. We've seen a lot of auction houses are auction houses, but we have seen the landscape for the auction houses change a bit. And just two quick examples. I mean, Golden is part of the collector's universe. So there's a conglomerate with, big money behind Golden Auction. So much so that he's now a television star. He's on Netflix, I mean, a season 2 renewed, you name it. You got PWCC is now under the Fanatics brand. So I guess if I'll throw it out there, how does an auction house like you survive? Or maybe the better question is, does this allow you to thrive? Is there a lane that you can operate in that they can't because of, who they've now become? Open-ended.
Yeah. So, I mean, for us, we've always found success in sticking to our roots, right? So we've grown the business tremendously. I mean, I've been in charge here for 7.5 years, and the REA that is today, not even recognizable to the REA of 2016. that being said, we always say it's easier to turn the U-boat than turn a Titanic, right? And so some of those, PWCC or Golden, they have elements of a Titanic. It's very tough to make that quick turn because of either their size or their scope or their responsibilities to their corporate or more corporate ownership. So for us, I feel like REA can thrive in this environment and is thriving in this environment because we're nimble. We're a high touch service. We get great results on par with anybody out there or better. And then, what are we doing we're always keeping an eye on what's going on around us. But you probably heard we just acquired Huggins and Scott Auctions. Yep. And so that was a play for us to expand our footprint, do it in such a way that's still consistent with the way that we, the way that we run REA, but also, serve more collectors, serve more types of material, and remain competitive in everything that we do.
So, I mean, you may have designs for this. I mean, it's a question I didn't throw out there ahead of time, but what I've noticed the larger auction houses do, and this PWCC was trying to do this before Fanatics, and obviously Golden was doing it as well. Auction houses used to be curated events. I know you have a lot of stuff. You said you had 600 pieces there, and that's only 20% of your auction. But so that's over 1,000 items, and well over you have 3,000 items basically. I'm trying to do math in my head. I was told there would be no math. But so that's a big auction, but it's a monthly or every other month. Like it is a curated auction where the items will get the attention of the auction house, right? And people who consign with you know that every item that goes in there is going to get the attention that it deserves. The bigger auction houses have kind of dropped down and started doing weekly auctions, more auctions with lower end type of cards. Is that something you kind of stay away from because the REA brand we are going to be, more customer service oriented, more, touch points, as you said, more, we're going to focus on making sure that, the items that get consigned to us get the story about them told?
Yeah. So for us, it's been a mixture of both. So we do these monthly auctions, 3,000-4,000 items of a lower quality, still fine quality, still good quality, but a lower quality than you might expect in one of our premier catalog auctions, like the one that we have going on right now. So, a premier catalog auction might do $15 million and a monthly auction might do $1 or $2 million. That being said, like I just mentioned before, staying true to our brand and staying true to what we do, everything that we've done that's eyed towards expansion is we're only doing it if we're consistent that we can deliver, if we're confident that we can deliver, we can offer the same consistency and service, and we're not going to compromise anything that's made REA what it is or what it's always been to people. So, weekly auctions, probably not a thing for us. Would worry too much about the keeping up that high touch level of service, but we've got a great team. We've built out the team. When I came to work at REA, there were only 2 employees. Wow. Now with Huggins and Scott, we're over 30 employees. And so making sure that we hire knowledgeable people, qualified people. And, the thing that's different about us too, is that everybody that works here is a collector. And so no matter what you're selling, whether you're selling a $20 1959 Topps PSA 8 common, or that Babe Ruth bat, or the Joe Doyle that we have, $1 million T206 slot number 1 in this auction, somebody that works here knows the importance of that item and can empathize with both the seller and the buyer. And so that's our difference, I think.
Highlanders were not in the National League. I mean, it's very important. It's an important thing. Thanks, PJ. So I got a little education about that card. It's pretty nice. One of the things that happens at the National, right? You get to see a card like that you're never going to see, and you get to learn the story behind it, which is fun because I'm a storyteller. I like to have some background and then share that story with with other folks, as you're able to do in your catalogs and the content you put around these cards. So 18 years worth of National. Yeah. Right? I want you to kind of go back. You might not have to go back too far, but give me something that I'll ask the 2 questions and let you go with whoever you are. Give me something that a National of past, kind of goes to Christmas past, right? Something that a National of past had that is missing from Nationals now that you'd like to see come back, and something that the new Nationals have that's like that never you saw before, right? This is something that's changed for the better now. While you're thinking an example, I loved Chicago 2 years ago. Whatnot had an ice cream truck parked outside. They were giving out like free bomb pops and ice cream bars. And, by the second day I had no voice left. So I was running out there like, what do I have to do? I have to sign up. Okay, this is my 11th whatnot account. I need another bomb pop. Just, let's go. Keep them
Yeah.
coming.
Well, it's like I was walking around on Sunday and I saw a skee ball in the
Yeah,
general
skee-ball.
vicinity of
Yeah.
whatnot. And so, I mean, I like that innovation, right? And maybe, you come for the skee ball, you stay for the new card drop, or you stay for some live shopping event, whatever the case may be. I guess that the things that the Nationals of present have that I don't recall seeing many years ago is a new way of tackling things. The National was a very predictable event where you would walk in the front door and the same dealers would be in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th row. And you knew exactly who and what you were going to see and what it was going to look like and what the general expectation were for any show. It was my 18th National. I play at a pretty high level in this hobby, and I had no idea what I would be walking into for this National. And that's exciting, and I think about, if it excites me, what does it do for a 13-year-old kid or a 23-year-old that maybe's got their first real job and has some money to spend, so that's really fun. And that's what I think I give kudos to the new National and what it looks like.
You didn't expect to drive out with Michael Jordan's Mercedes? That was
Right, right. For $23. I mean, that's just,
$23.
it's incredible. And when we were at the Mint Collective, they had that, how long can you hang on the bar? If you hang for a minute, you get a better prize than if you hang for 30 seconds. I mean,
Yes, I got no prize for hanging for 4 seconds.
I didn't even try. I knew I would, tear a quad or something like that.
My prize was laughter around me.
Yeah. But one of the things, and this I think was a function of, there was just a smaller number of auction houses back in the past, but the National used to always have a live auction of some sort. And it was, it was sponsored by one of the major auction companies, but that was exciting. You'd get a lot of people in the audience. You'd have that live auction event that I think people in their minds associate with auctions, people raising paddles, people having fun. I don't know that it's practical to do anymore for a number of different reasons, but I went to a bunch and they were awesome.
I think that would be amazing. I think Mint, the first machination of Mint, the first creation of Mint, was supposed to have a live auction, like that Mint 25 auction, but then COVID kind of changed it and pushed it a little bit, and you name it. But I think that's a great idea. Not something I would have thought of. I think it's a great idea. See who you're bidding against. Have some fun around it. You know what I mean?
Fun.
Get rid of the paddles. You see it in other asset classes. That would be a cool spectacle. It doesn't even have to be the craziest of cards. You know what I mean? People are there bidding, like, all right, let's go. And you get an auctioneer in there. I would do it.
Yeah. No, it'd be super fun. And then, you just mentioned quickly, not to digress too much, but other conventions have it. I'm very curious to see if these new National owners, or even fanatics and whatever they do with experiences and shows, brings kind of that Comic-Con element to it, where you have panels and you have discussions. And like when we were at the Mint, I thought it was hugely entertaining and educational and informational to have industry leaders get up there and talk about stuff in a curated kind of environment. And I think, when I'm standing behind my booth, people can come pick my brain. But I bet if you got a couple of us in a room and had it moderated by someone like yourself, it'd be really interesting and people would go.
Yeah. I mean, it takes some of the foot traffic off the floor as well. It's like a Disney version of doing it, right?
Sure.
If you want a little less line on this ride, put a Beauty and the Beast show over here and take some of the traffic flow and let them sit down in some air conditioning for a minute. Maybe even serve some snacks. I mean, hey,
novel idea, or give them a place to sit and eat their snacks.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find a sponsor for it. So the corporate area, interesting space, right? Obviously, you're in it. Can't sell in there. That's a new-ish type of thing. What do you think of that? You think it's good to have that? You think it's bad? You think it's does it separate you from kind of the show? Does it? I love the carpet, so they better not get rid of it. I'll tell you that much. You take a break for your feet just by walking around the corporate area. But do you like being in there? Or would you rather, kind of be out there in the, in the crowds?
So I do like being in there. I mean, I think, to your point, it's obviously much more comfortable with the carpeting. I think that the makeup of corporate has changed, which makes me kind of more cool with being in there, because in the old days, it used to be hey, the guys that sell supplies and the guys that sell artwork and all those guys are in the corporate area. And there was a lot of reason to kind of snake through or around it without stopping to look much. Now, when you've got guys like Jeff in there, you've got Panini and Topps and Fanatics giving out stuff. It draws a lot more traffic. And so there was no part of me in any of the last 2 or 3 years that we've been in that corporate area that says, oh, like I'm losing out by not being on the main floor. So I like it. And I think it's a good thing. And I hope they'll continue it.
Will you guys bring skee ball next year into your booth?
We were thinking of just having paintball set up at our booth next year. So
even better, even better. I like it. A little paintball, just nowhere near the carts. Please.
Yeah, right. Or maybe we'll start with like a bouncy house or something like that.
I like it. That's it. Well, I mean, something that cools people off. Maybe some fans. How about a dunk tank where you can volunteer to get in because it'll cool you off? You know, one of those. But you got to leave immediately. Otherwise, you're going to fall down there. All right, so a fun one. And I'll take it home, right? Because you can take this anywhere you want. I want a cool story from this national from you, and it could be anything. I don't know whether you took any cards in as a consignment to kind of put into the next show, something kind of walked up to the booth and you were like, wow, this is a cool piece that's going to be in a future auction. Whether or not on Sunday when you were able to walk the show, did you pick up something for your own PC? It could be anything like that. Just we'll take it home with sort of a your quick hit story about the national this year.
Yeah, this was actually the first national in my life where I didn't spend $1 for anything for myself. So I don't know what that all means, but this national was fun for me because I had the largest number of new employees, many of whom had never been to a show. So being able to see their excitement, teach them what it's like to be at the national as a full-time hobby employee, that was cool to kind of see the wheels turn and that connection, like, hey, I'm making money in my hobby. For us, we had a great show for consignments. And I think it was stuff that just was buried out there. Like we had a family that drove from 6 hours away with a van full of stuff, and they were wheeling it in like on one of those beach carts. And they'd bring in a beach cart to us, and we'd say, okay, we can sell these 5 items. Then they'd go out and they'd bring in another beach cart. and it was cool because it's like, you just never know what's out there.
That's right.
We helped we gave a guy a cash advance at the show to put down a mortgage on a house for one of his kids.
Wow.
Put down a down payment on a house for one of his kids. So it's interesting how auction houses get a bad rap sometimes, but we're able to really be impactful for people and change lives, make collectors happy. So yeah, it was a confluence of a lot of different things that really just made the national a good one.
I didn't pick up too many cards either. I gotta tell you, I mean, I think, it has changed for me into going and saying hi to folks. I gave out a lot of cards. Like people left with a lot of slabs of mine, just, kids, you name it, trying to take pictures of that. I just like, here you go. Enjoy. It's your first national. Oh, you're a Yankee fan. You're wearing a Houston Astros shirt. Here's an Alvarez or here's an Altuve. Try to make that, moment. I'm sure, me giving them a $20 slab is not the moment of the national, but it adds to it. Right. Yeah. But what you're saying, I love, meeting the new employees. Does it ever hit home? Were you able to take a moment there at national, or maybe now, being home for a little while and say, wow, we've taken REA, to a new level here with this many employees and bringing this many people into the national, into this hobby? Does it make you even want to grow even more? You ever take a second and just kind of like, pat yourself on the back because you guys are doing things the right way?
Yeah. So look, it's super exciting. I mean, I think back to 2003, getting a ride to the national, eating Chinese buffet for dinner, literally Chinese buffet before we took a 2.5 hour drive home. And then 2007 was the first national as like an adult. I was 21 years old and just going there for 2 days and hanging out in the hotel bar and meeting people and athletes. And so, yeah, I mean, I do look back and I pinch myself as to where I've come from and where I'm at now, but it's nice to be able to share that. I mean, I had a kid at the booth who I knew his dad when I was 17 years old, and he brings his 11-year-old son to me, and I get to put a Babe Ruth bat in his hands. And that's going to be this indelible mark in that kid's life as a collector. And so that's really fun. So yeah, every day is a pinch yourself moment. It's just for something different.
It's amazing what the hobby can give you guys. I mean, I practiced law for 20 something years now. And in the last couple of years, because of the hobby, I mean, I sat down and chatted with Don Mattingly, who was like my childhood hero. I grew up in the city in 1986 as a 10-year-old, and everyone was Mets, Mets, Mets. Let's go Mets. And I was like, yeah, but I got Mattingly. So that was cool to kind of, and I had dinner with Derek Jeter, did a
Hey,
question
I
and
saw
answer
on
panel.
TJ.
It was
Yeah.
amazing, right? I mean, it's the cool stuff that the hobby could bring. I love chatting with you guys. Go ahead and check out their auction. Something for everybody, whether it's modern, vintage, World Series program and ticket from 1903, the first World Series. I mean, if you're a ticket collector, you can't get much better than that. All the way up to Jackie Robinson, to Tom Brady. I mean, I was holding a bunch for myself. Take a look at it. I appreciate having you on, and obviously we're going to see you at many more nationals going forward. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, Cage. Thanks.